All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the U.S. Open here for you, giving you all the top picks and plays for this week in PGA DFS and for outright betting and just betting in general. But before we do that, we're going to get into a quick recap from last week at the RBC Canadian Open. Ended up being a very fun week. The course ended up playing, like I expected it to, which was a fun course. Tournament ended up being a very good tournament as well for PGA DFS purposes, so we'll touch on that. And then I did finish the 9-to-5 custom model update that I'll touch on in this, and then we'll get into the normal video that I have for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we start off with a recap from last week. So I did have Corey Connors above Rory in the 9-to-5 player pool, specifically because I did kind of worry that Rory was not there mentally. I kind of talked about that. Although on paper he was like clearly a good option, you just worried about where he was at mentally. And then Sam Burns. Sam Burns was an easy play. And just looking at the cash plays from last week, you guys can tell very solid week. I mean, Andrew Putnam was a player that the 9-to-5 data was getting to a bunch. Sam Burns was the easy click. I mentioned Ryan Fox, I felt like was a very safe cash play. Harry Hall made the cut. Vince Whaley made the cut. Corey Connors made the cut. So very strong week for cash purposes. Overall, a very projectable tournament as well. A lot of the top stat fits ended up winning. And that was a week where we kind of had to earn it, right? It's a week in which the key stats weren't perfectly laid out for us because we were playing on a new course. So we kind of had to, find out what key stats we should be looking at, which comp courses we should be looking at. So honestly, self-pat on the back for a very good week last week. Now, outright wise, we probably should have hit Sam Burns outright wise. The 9-to-5 data, though, for what it's worth, guys, every single week we give out, the good outright bets, via the 9-to-5 data, which if you want to call it the AI data, we can do that. Okay. With Sam Burns losing in a playoff, the 9-to-5 data has hit 10 out of the past 12 outright winners. Okay. But I could caveat that with saying it also had Brian Fox listed as a possible outright bet last week as well. Now, obviously, you're not going to bet on like 20 golfers, but if you can reduce the list that you're betting on each and every week down to 20 golfers or so, everyone is going to do that. So I mentioned last week, guys, I was bumping it up, a tag here. And if you guys are confused by that, because last week we didn't necessarily have course history, which is something that goes into, this data tag here. I was basically saying, all right, we're going to click on the outright bets, but we're also going to treat possible outright bets as good outright bets. And then long shot bets would obviously get bumped up to possible outright bets. Ryan Fox was someone that was then there as well. Okay. So that's my long way of saying we've had a lot of predictable winners lately on the PGA Tour. So the data continues to hit. We just should be focusing on those types of golfers if you guys are someone that's placed outright bets. But a very solid week last week. And now that brings me into the fun update that I have made for you guys on the 9-to-5 website. So first and foremost, I am still marketing this tool as in beta, but you can find this on the 9-to-5 Golf page. Go to the 9-to-5 custom model. So the unique thing about the 9-to-5 data compared to maybe other sites is I take an extra step for you guys where I already pre-mark the data in terms of how it's ranked. So obviously we always like to look at course history. We always like to look at recent form, but if we want to look at stat fits, we can do that as well. And we have all these unique characteristics that we can look at each week, right? And so how I have this broken down in the tool is key stats, course history, and recent form. So for example, this week, key stat wise, we're probably going to be looking at total driving, TD. We're going to include that in this custom model here. Maybe we're going to be looking at ball striking, BS. Okay. And then recent form, I already have defaulted in there. If you didn't want to have that, you could reset the attributes here. I did add in a light and dark mode. I know some people like the dark mode in there. Fun stuff there. I'm going to have a more detailed version of breaking this down, but basically you guys can put in whichever data points you want into the data set, and then it's going to optimize based off of the fantasy score that you have in there. Now, we can kind of adjust which data we want to see here. And so right now, as I'm recording this video, we're not getting the full sample of all the betting odds just yet. That typically comes out early afternoon on Monday. So we can even just take those off, click those off. If we didn't want to look at any of this stuff and we just wanted to look at the custom model that data that we have coming in, we could be looking at that there as well. But let's go ahead and just kind of reset this. And what we could do is you can adjust the min exposure that you want for a player. You can adjust the max exposure. It's not going to do that fully. Okay, it's going to still operate off of getting you guys the best, projected fantasy score. But anyways, let's just go ahead and run this. It does optimize based off of projected ownership right now. And so again, because it's early on in the week, we don't necessarily have that. And so basically, and again, I'll do another video for this. We'll just run it. So we click run, and then we can see kind of what the top lineup is. It is sorted by total projected points, then total ownership as well. Again, we don't have that in just yet, pretty early on in the week. And then we'll have the 6 for 6% as well, which I think is pretty darn awesome. It'll lead you to making maybe more better decisions for cash and whatnot. But another part here is that you can scroll down, and then you guys can kind of see what it's optimizing based off of. Okay, so just looking at this, I'm kind of being told that we're probably going to get to a lot of Scotty this week. Probably don't want to get to Rory, honestly, right? We'll talk about that. So, for instance, you could scroll back up, and we could do like a max exposure of 5 for Rory. Like we probably don't need to get to him that much. We could even adjust his fantasy points down if we wanted to do that there as well. Got a ticker in there for you guys. I think that's a little bit easier for people to make some slight adjustments as well. So we ran that, and now obviously we're not getting to any of Rory. Again, I'll have a more detailed video called out for that, but I have teased this a decent amount. I'm excited for it. It is still in beta, guys. Still testing it out, but I think it is good to go for the U.S. Open. You guys can play around with that for the U.S. Open, and if any errors come up, obviously I'll adjust those. If those do come up, let me know in the 9to5 Discord chat as well. All right, so now we go ahead and get into the U.S. Open preview. This tournament is going to be played at Oakmont, obviously very famous for the church pews, bunkers there, and that's really the specialty of this course. That's really the biggest defense of this course in general, is the bunkers, the strategically placed bunkers. But also, with it being the U.S. Open, we are going to see tighter fairways, which with the thick rough that we have as well, that's where it's going to play more difficult. Okay, on average in 2016, we did see the tournament be played here. Golfers were averaging like 5.5 birdies per round in that tournament there as well. Now, we don't need to draw too many conclusions from that tournament when it was played here in 2016. That's so far removed. Golf technology has advanced a lot since then. The way players attack courses has changed a little bit, and we know what to expect from U.S. Opens. They want it to play the same each and every year, and with that, we know what to expect, like key stat-wise. But I do think we have somewhat of a theme here, right? Total drivers and ball strikers here. This is what this is telling me here. A little bit of golfers that hit it longer somewhat, but no, this is total drivers and ball strikers type of course, and golfers that don't make that many mistakes. It is a cherry on top if we can get to some golfers that are still playing good golf, that have played this tournament before, this course before, in this tournament. So yeah, Price and John Rahm, some of those players maybe we elevate to a little bit more, maybe could use that more as a 50-50 decision maker. But a very fun course, excited for this week. Let's go ahead and just get into the golfers that have the best course history, and that's with an asterisk this week. I'm actually not looking at that 2016 tournament. That's just too far removed, really not relevant at all. Again, a lot of these players are going to have some sort of course experience, went over and played the course in general. But again, with the caveat, if you want to target those golfers in 50-50s decisions, you can. Regardless, Bryson is still up there. And so when I'm looking at for course history, it's more comp course history here, with it being the U.S. Open. I am looking at the past 2 U.S. Opens. I do think that the U.S. Open, obviously tries to play like the U.S. Open each and every year. But with that, we also are looking at the PGA Championship. Those 2 tournaments tend to play very similar, thick roughs, tighter fairways, longer tracks. We tend to see that there as well. But I also do want to look at the Masters, just with that being a major as well. So really, the past 2 U.S. Opens and the past 2 PGA Championships. Now, if you guys are someone that's looking, further than that, I do want to call out that I also do have the previous U.S. Opens as well. So it's going in 2024, 2023, and then if you go to H5, H6, H7, that's going to be U.S. Open 2022, 2021, and 2020, just as an FYI. But again, we typically don't care about that, but I did want to include that specifically this week because it is worth looking at. Like golfers that play in the U.S. Open, this is a course that typically plays the same. It is worthwhile to look at. Now, again, I do think that this tournament is going to play a lot like the last tournament that we saw last week, the RBC Heritage, okay, where because it's the U.S. Open, we kind of know what to expect. We need to be targeting golfers that are both long and accurate. We're looking at strokes gain differential as well. I do like that stat. Again, I'm probably going to change par 5 scoring a little bit here. It is a par 70 course, but if we kind of take a peek at the course breakdown in the yardages, we obviously have a very long par 5 there, and that's the only par 5 on the front nine. But we have some longer par 4s as well on the front. But we get to the back, guys, long par 5, a long par 4, a long par 4 there as well. So it's kind of like looking at par 5 scoring in a more unique way. If you want to look at long iron accuracy instead, that's not a bad route to go. Or long iron scoring, you could do that as well. Again, that's something you could plug into the 9 to 5 custom model. But that also, I do want to bring up a point with the 9 to 5 custom model. Like, I don't love to highlight the 9 to 5 custom model too much because we already have the 9 to 5 data broken down into like the most curated way possible. At that point, there's only small differences to be made each and every week. That's going to be the most accurate source of projections that we can get. I know people like to make their own custom models. That's fun to do and kind of twist data in whichever way you want. But overall, it's typically not beneficial. I know like some of the best content out there each week in like the X space is putting out these unique course stats and like which players are the best in this. That's fun to look at, don't get me wrong, but the 9 to 5 cheat sheet data is already factoring that all in there. But did want to call out, but that is something, if you guys wanted to, you could end up putting that in there instead of par 5 scoring. And then just some other key stats that we also are looking at is going to be bogey avoidance for sure. Okay, it's going to be a rough one out there. And if you want to look at actually a specialist data point here, let's jump into that. And I think it's a fun one. Just the rough amount in general, the rough length, is probably the most significant stat I would say this week. So we got thick rough this week. So looking at the golfers that rank out the best in that, let's just take a peek at that. And so it goes Xander, Sungjae Im, actually, Scotty, Taylor Pendrith, JJ Spawn, Sam Burns, Adam Scott, Jonathan Vegas, Patrick Cantley, Lord Cantor. It's probably a small sample there. Benny and Max Grossman. So interesting there. Now we also could toss in some other stuff here as well, which is kind of fun to look at. It is a longer track. Greens are actually a little bit bigger. Fairway widths are a little bit tighter. It is bunker line course. We can look at that. Fast greens, bank greens. We can look at that. And then hard scoring. So we don't need to go too crazy with it. Maybe you want to look at par 70, but again, it's not really a par 70. That's the thing that I hate about majors. Honestly, it's like, yeah, it's a par 70, but we're just changing par 5s into par 4s or, whatever. We're lengthening up holes. They have a par 3. That's a par 4. It's like stupid, like stuff like that, because the par 3 is playing as like 293. Okay, no, that's a par 4. Okay, I just hate that. But anyways, if you do that, the top ones there, when you factor out maybe reducing a small sample size, Xander, Henley, Kyle Morikawa, Scotty, Sam Burns, Keegan. So kind of interesting there that Scotty falls off. Green speeds, does struggle with faster greens, but worth calling out. Fun stuff there. I should call it though, with this week, guys, it is extremely soft pricing. The issue that we've had really this season has been that we really haven't had any golfers that were like checking all the boxes, and if they were, they're priced up and priced accordingly. That's kind of been the struggle this year for PGA DFS purposes. This week I'm truly getting flashbacks to like 2023 and prior, where like every single week we're getting like some egregiously mispriced golfers, making PGA DFS and like the strategy behind it even more simple in terms of who we should be playing. And I think that's going to be further backed by the fact that we're getting a lot of golfers that are in some great form, and they're all pretty cheap. Like just looking at this top list. So yeah, Sky Scheffler, obviously class of the field. He is priced that way. Okay, that's the difficult part of whether or not to play Scotty. But due to some of the pricing that we're getting, he actually is pretty easy to fit into builds. Now the question is, do we need to do that? Because we do have some like Terrell Hatton, John Rahm playing some good golf. And just again, as a reminder, we are only looking at PGA Tour starts for these live golfers. Just to go over that spiel again, when live golfers play in PGA Tour events, they are typically finishing on average about 7 spots worse on PGA Tour events, majors, than what they typically do on live golf events. And that's percentage wise. Okay, so with that being said, it really doesn't matter because we know which live golfers to be looking at each and every event. It's pretty simple. Like Hatton, Rahm, Neiman, that's probably it that we're looking at this week. Maybe Brooks Koepka gets things going with the thick rough. And then obviously Bryson is the top dog for live golfers. But I hardly consider Bryson a live golfer. I don't know about you guys. I think of Bryson as a YouTuber first and then a live golfer. I don't know, like, is that just me? Because he puts out a lot of YouTube content, and that's why I've always given Bryson a pass for going to live, because he didn't lie to anyone. He's like, I'm basically going there so I can put more content and actually help out golf grow, and he's done that. But obviously those are the players that we're looking at. But again, the nice part about this week is that we're getting cheap pricing for some golfers that are in some good form. One of my biggest questions, though, this week is what to do with someone like Sam Burns, right? Sam Burns, an outright bet for us last week, a core play for us, just in tremendous form, making 7 straight cuts in a row, seemingly getting better as the season has progressed as well with that second place finish last week. If he won, I think I would be on him much more, but we do have to worry about where he is at mentally, okay? Because that was a tough loss. To have that 5-footer and miss and not win on the first playoff hole is a little bit brutal. All in all, though, he played extremely well. Given the fact that it's a major, I don't really think we have to worry about that, but that is something that is on the table. And like we go further on, Harris English, extremely cheap, in tremendous form as well. 8 straight make cuts for him, multiple top 15 place finishes, some lackluster starts based in their 53rd and 62nd or 66, but overall we'll take that for a guy priced at 6.7. Neiman, if you care about live starts, you're loving him a little bit more, and I'm worried that people are going to care about live starts a little bit more because he'll probably be someone that people get to a little bit more, so I don't love that. Corey Connors, someone that's worth calling out, like just dominating there. Xander Schauffele, Bryce, like pretty awesome in terms of the great plays that we're getting. So without further ado, let's actually just get into the top plays in the high tier. So guys, typically speaking, I would go through like the top 4 players in each pricing tier, but I'm going to spend a little bit more time on some of those spots here. So like, let's start with the top end. Obviously the biggest question mark is what to do with Scotty Scheffler this week. Scotty Scheffler is the class of the field. He's top 5 or better in all the key metrics that we look at. Best stat fit, best recent form, top ranked play. That's no doubt. He's someone we should be going out of our way to target. Okay. Again, I am doing this video a little bit before all the betting data is in. So like the fantasy points are maybe a little bit lower for some of the golfers. The 9 to 5 rank and the rank are the same, which is typically a little bit different because the overall rank does reflect betting data. So just make sure if you guys are a 9 to 5 member to be checking that out. Once that updates, it'll probably be updated like 3 hours after I put this video out. But again, with it being the US Open, I just wanted to get out to you guys earlier. But he's obviously someone that we want to get to. Another question is what to do with Rory, because last week should have been a perfect course for him. This week should be a perfect course for him as well. But, 2 bad starts in a row. He's really kind of just been trash since that Masters victory. And I just don't like, why target him unless you think he's going to win? Unless he's extremely low owned, because he's not priced up egregiously, where he kind of is. Yeah, I don't think we get to him. And if we're passing up on those two kind of due to pricing, then it becomes much easier because we got Bryson, who really is just the class of the field, I would say, this week. His miscut recently was at the Open Championship. I don't think we care about that too much. Has played well at the past U.S. Opens, obviously won last year. Last year, I was saving him for my one-and-done pick for the U.S. Open. That is something I've done again this year, so hopefully that bodes well for me. We'll see. He obviously has played well at the Masters and the PGA Championship. It'll be interesting to see if that works, but he's obviously a great play. Xander Schauffele has been someone that's been playing good enough golf. Obviously 65 straight make cuts for him. Typically speaking, this would be a perfect tournament for Xander Schauffele, but you could say the same for John Rahm. Kyle Morikawa has been a little bit annoying recently, but obviously this is typically a good course and tournament for him. Patrick Cantlay, besides his recent miscut, his very disappointing miscut, he's someone that does stand out as a good play. But mostly, guys, I think we're pulling in Bryson from the top end. But I don't really think we have to start actually with the high tier plays this week. I actually think we start with the dark horses and the sleeper picks and even the value picks first. And then whichever stud we kind of end up on, we're kind of okay with it because there's just some bad pricing out there. And again, it's going to make this week pretty darn easy. So yeah, one of the easier clicks that we're going to get this week is actually going to be Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood, just 11th best staff in the field, 13th best in recent form, course history rank. So comp course history wise, hasn't missed a cut, has played well at the past 2 U.S. Opens as well. 16th and 5th place finishes there for him. Recent form has been solid. Memorial Tournament 16th there. Charles Schwab Challenge 4th. PGA Championship didn't play all the best actually, but 41st made the cut. Is worth calling out that this is going to be a week though in which it is T60 and ties that make the cut. That's really the biggest defense for PGA DFS contest is that it's a smaller amount of players are going to make the cut. So there might not be as high of a 6% as you would expect due to the soft pricing that we have. And then we get into the Truist Championship. RBC Heritage was playing some pretty good golf there before. So I think we're fine getting to him. And then we look at a play like Joaquin Niemann as well. Joaquin Niemann, played this event well in the past as well. He's been playing pretty darn well on the PGA Tour in the past events that we've seen him at. If you factor in the live golf events as well, been playing very well there as well. I do worry that he's going to be chalk. He's very cheap. He's very easy to fit into builds. And so just lineup wise, if we just click on those 2 golfers to start our builds, on average, we have 8K left over, which given the pricing that we have is going to be pretty easy to get to. Now, I don't think we need to risk it with like Hovland, Koepka, Hideki for, PGA DFS purposes, really not worthwhile. But once we go ahead and jump into the next tier, kind of the sleeper tier, it's pretty darn loaded. And this is the difficult part about this week is I could make a case to play Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Terrell Hatton, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors, Tony Finau. Like, it is pretty darn. Ben Griffin's been playing great golf. Ben Griffin, if you just look at his recent starts, guys, he's one of the best players this season, just in the world. Multiple top 10 finishes, just playing great golf. And it's the Max Fly golf ball. And if you guys are not following Ben Griffin on TikTok yet, and if you guys have a TikTok account, shame on you. He's been plugging very fun content for, fantasy golf or just golf purposes in a while. It's funny, Max Homa was playing extremely well when, kind of X was taking over and Twitter was kind of the main social media platform. And now you got Ben Griffin taking over here for TikTok. It's just, he's like the big TikTok guy. It's just interesting how that works out. So strokes gained social media, Ben Griffin is dominating there, but he is an interesting click. You can get him at 7.2. It's just crazy, right? But look at Corey Connors. Now, again, this is the overall rank's going to update. Okay, don't get me wrong there. He's probably going to be 14th overall once we get the betting odds in there. But as it currently sits, and this is due to his high likelihood to make the cut because he's someone that just consistently makes cuts. 13 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour. All of them have been pretty darn good starts as well. Basically top 30 or better. Would love a little bit more upside from him, don't get me wrong. But he's going to be a very good stat fit. So we talk about ball striking and total driving being two of the key stats this week. He ranks out top 20 in both of those. Actually, ranks out top 20 in all the key stats that we're looking at this week. Don't like the fact that he missed the cut at the US Open 2 years ago, but he finished top 10 last year. He's typically someone that plays well at these types of events, and given his pricing, it's just going to be tough to avoid. I can already hear some of the comments are going to be like, oh, you're just playing all the chalk. I don't care. I don't control that crap. I just give you guys the best picks and plays each week. If other people are agreeing with me, that's not my fault. That's, I can't control that at all. I don't even listen to what other people say. It's just going off of what the data tells us. And if they're too high owned, the 9-to-5 ownership leverage tool is going to tell us that they're over owned. And then we can, maybe pivot from that point on. But on Monday, I don't care at all. And I can tell people are probably going to say that. I can almost guarantee, because he's such a straightforward play, that a bunch of people are going to be on them, as they should be. And then we look at someone like Sam Burns. Sam Burns is someone that really, I'm confused by the pricing, honestly. It's weird because he has made 7 straight make cuts in a row, and he has basically gotten better. Okay, struggled at the Masters. RBC Heritage played well 13th. CJ Cup 5th. Truist Championship 30th. Not the best there. PGA Championship top 20. Memorial 12th. And then second last week. Okay. I am confused because he was going to be a good staff at top 20 in the field there. Has played well in majors and at the past US Opens. If you think of, a player that would typically do well at an event like this, you would think of someone like Sam Burns, who is a good tool driver, typically not making that many mistakes, typically a pretty good putter. Typically. And he's a great specialist, 4th best specialist in the field. To me, that stands out to me. Look at all the unique course characteristics that we have. He ranks out top 20 or better in all of them, minus green speeds. He might struggle with the fast green speeds, 54th in the field there. That's my one concern, but we do know that he is one of the better putters. Best putter who misses 5 feet putts for the win. So maybe that's a plus or a minus to you guys. But given his pricing, it doesn't really matter. He's super cheap and he's super easy to fit into builds. And so we can put those two into our builds pretty easily, pretty confidently. And then we have 9K left over. Okay, what do we do from there? Because I'm going to touch on the values that we have, and we are getting, I would say, 2 clear-cut values, but one really good one. And one of them that I don't mind is Cebu Kim. Okay, Cebu Kim is someone that has played well at the past few majors. He's someone that's been playing great golf recently as well. He's someone that is a fine plug-and-play golf pick. He is someone that probably should be priced here, given the field that we have. So it's not necessarily like an extremely bad price, but it is still pretty bad. But before we get into that, I do just want to reiterate, Russell Henley stands out. Keegan Bradley kind of stands out. They're a little bit too risky, I would say. They're fine. Terrell Hatton is someone you would expect to play well. Seb Straka is one of the best staff fits in the field. He hasn't exactly done well, though, in these types of events. That's a little bit of a concern. You would fully expect Shane Lowry to make the cut. I'm still tilted by the miscut at the PGA Championship. That does worry me a little bit, but he is still someone I think we should begin to this week. So I'd be fine with all of those plays, but they're more shoulder shrug options. You go to grab a snack midday, open up your fridge. You're like, you see the leftovers. You don't really feel like making anything. You shrug your shoulders and you have that as your snack and you move on with your day. That's all those plays right there for me. And so, we go ahead and take a peek at the values now real quick. Like Cebu Kim, guys, 5 straight make cuts, right? Has played fine at the US Open, 32nd and 39th the last 2 years. Happy to get to him. Daniel Berger, if he was someone that hadn't been on this weird stretch of bad golf, would be someone that we'd be looking at a bunch. He's a tremendous stat fit, top 12 in the field still. It could end up being like Lee Hodges last week, where I'm like, Lee Hodges, besides the fact that he's in this bad trend of golf where he's on a downward trend, he'd be someone I'd be targeting a bunch. Same thing with Alex Smalley, who, the stat fits last week really did well. And maybe they do well again, and maybe Daniel Berger does become someone that is a fine play. I would view him more as a GPP only play. But to me, the player that stands out the most in this value tier range is Harris English, priced at 6.7. I'm actually pretty surprised by this. Okay, so not only is he in very good form, he's had one bad start recently, the Charles Schwab Challenge, where he finished 53rd. Don't love that. But we see a 12th at the Memorial, 2nd at the PGA, 11th at the Truist. RBC Heritage, that was a bad start as well. Those tournaments, though, what are we seeing? What's the trend there? Post-major. It's a post-major event. Maybe not as mentally focused, right? Maybe doesn't matter as much. If you're not playing and swinging it that well, maybe not going to grind out as much. Maybe. Could draw conclusions there. 12th at the Masters, 18th at the Houston Open. Has played well at the past U.S. Opens, guys, 41st. And last year, he wasn't playing all that well. Okay, worth calling out. Still was able to make the cut, 31st there. 8th the year prior, has obviously played well at the PGA Championship, played well at the Masters. Okay, so looking very good there. He's the 23rd staff in the field. Typically speaking, when you think of Harris English, you think of him being a good tool driver and ball striker, which he ranks up 15th and 12th in the field there. Very good stuff just across the board, right? It's very tough to not like Harris English, especially when you consider his pricing. Okay, again, this will adjust, but right now as it currently sits, top 15 playing the 9-to-5 model. They'll probably adjust to like 25 once we start getting the betting odds and make cut odds coming in from Vegas. But who cares? Like, he's still someone that pops up as one of the best value plays. And I'm actually curious if other people are going to get to him, because to me, Sam Burns, the only question with him is whether or not we're worried about him mentally, just with that playoff loss. Okay. Corey Connors does feel like a pretty strong option as well. Maybe some people are going to talk themselves off of him because he didn't have the best finish last week. Okay. 27th, you would want him to do better. But I'm curious Harris English, because I don't know if necessarily people are going to love him as much as I do. It's just not someone that people like to play. The year of Harris English, where he was basically priced like this all the time for us and no one was ever on him, it was strange. And it kind of feels like that's going to be the case with him this week as well. Now, from there, we are getting fine values elsewhere. Like Danny McCarthy, you would expect to make the cut. Brian Harmon, someone you would typically expect to play well. Taylor Pendrith, Aaron Rye, going to be, very interesting GPP plays. Max Gracerman, I like as well. Like, we are still getting plenty of other good values in there as well. But we can't go through all of them in this video, at least. I might be doing a live stream. We'll see. But let's go ahead and get into my core plays for this week. So to me, pretty simple week, guys. Core play number one is going to be Corey Connors. If you guys want to get to him as an outright bet, you could. 65-1. I actually don't think he's going to win. I just think he's a better PGA DFS play. Top 10 stat fit. I think he has a strong chance for us to not only make the cut, but at least give us a top 30 or so finish. To me, it's pretty straightforward there, as is Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood, two players starting out the video with golfers that I probably don't expect to win. But if Fleetwood's in contention to win, that wouldn't be shocking. He's just been playing great golf. Maybe he falls into a victory. I doubt it. I don't want to bet on that. He's 40-1, but for PGA DFS purposes, just a clear and easy click to me at his price tag. You could pair him up with Joaquin Niemann, like I'm already kind of doing. Core play number three, if it wasn't spelled out for you guys, Sam Burns. And again, I think I could bet Sam Burns at 80-1. If he gets to 100-1 on some sites, I think I'd want to do that. Again, it's a little bit too early with when I'm recording this video to have all the odds coming in, but I think he would make sense. I could get to him as an outright because he has played this event well in the past. He's a top 20 stat fit. Clearly, his form has been getting better and better each of the past 4 starts on the PGA Tour, and if he gets better again this week, he is going to be winning, right? He gets finished second place. If you get better again, you're going to win. And then Harris English. And getting to Harris English, I actually like him as an outright bet at 100-1. I'm actually surprised that he's 100-1. Again, I think on some sites, given this number on DraftKings, he probably can get him at 120-1, I would imagine, on some other sites, actually. And it's just the fact that he's been playing well recently on the PGA Tour. He also won recently on the PGA Tour at the Farmers Insurance Open, which is an event that plays as a more difficult event. Like, he won with a winning score of -8, where he shot 73 twice in that tournament. So obviously, like, he has already won. Do like that aspect for him. Was close to winning the PGA Championship. I really don't mind that. But given his price here of 6.7 on DraftKings, that is crazy. And so we go ahead and kind of get into my first look build just based off of those players. I think it works pretty well. Like Xander, Bryson, we can get to. The issue that we have is we do have some salary left over, which I don't necessarily love. So I might bump up from these plays, but I don't know. Like, if I could get to Scotty, obviously I would love to do that, but I think this is kind of going to be a base build that I work off of. And this is very much a week where I do think we should be building a base build like this and then making the one switches from there. If you are doing hand builds, if you're doing 20 lineups or so, that's the approach I would go with. And so typically speaking, I would show you guys kind of what the 9 to 5 lineup builder is showing as an optimal build, but I just want to show off the custom model as well, just real quick. So it is broken down in a way where you can select the high tier, mid tier, low tier, and value tier players. Okay. What I'm actually going to do is I went ahead and here, I'll show it like this. I'll reset it. So you can select the high tier. That's going to put all those players in that range. You can select all in mid tier. Then we can select all in low tier. Okay. But then I also, I like Harris English a bunch. So we're going to toss in Harris English as well. Okay. And then I'm just going to click run. And it's just the base stats that are in there right now, kind of whatever. We're just going to click run. I kind of just want to see what it's looking at. And so what it views as potentially the most optimal build: Ben Griffin, Corey Connors, Rory. Again, Rory's kind of ugly. I don't know if I'd necessarily love that. Henley, Sam Burns, Shane Lowry. But let's go ahead and take a peek at the player exposure as well, which if we scroll down, we'll be able to see that as well. So it is getting to Harris English, Bryson, Morikawa, Ben Griffin, John Rahm, Hovland. So by doing this, it's not getting to Scotty as much because of his pricing tier. It is definitely going with more of a fair and balanced approach. So just interesting to look at. But once we get more of the betting odds in there, again, in a couple hours after this is uploaded, typically early afternoon, those are in there. Then it'll adjust a little bit. The 9 to 5 lineup builder will have those projection data points in there as well. I'll be coming out with a betting video on Tuesday, just as an FYI, so be on the lookout for that. I probably will be doing a one and done video as well for people that play, not one and done, sorry, the office pools video for people that play office pools. Always fun for me to cover that, but that's going to do it for this video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. That does help out a bunch. If you guys want access to the 9to5sports.com tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all the tools available on the website for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. It's the best value out there. I will probably be updating a lot of the tools to meet the same theme and functionality of that custom model tool. It is designed to be mobile friendly as well, which the cheat sheet and some of the other tools do work on mobile devices. I wouldn't necessarily call it mobile friendly. So the custom model does work that way. And again, I probably will be updating some more of the fantasy golf tools to meet that threshold as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Appreciate everyone being here. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel again. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck with all your bets and PGA DFS lineups this week. And as always, let's keep cashing.